Now, across North Carolina, Carolina Newsmakers, providing in-depth and candid interviews with North Carolina's government, political, education, and business leaders. Here's your host, Don Curtis.
Well, hello again, and welcome back to Carolina Newsmakers. Delighted to be back with you. And this week, we're delighted to welcome Ken Spaulding, who is a Democratic candidate for the office of governor of the state of North Carolina. He is a practicing attorney from Durham, North Carolina, and first served in the North Carolina General Assembly, or actually the House of Representatives of the General Assembly, beginning in 1978. So he goes way back in his public service. So first of all, welcome to the program. Delighted to have you.
Let me say thank you so much for having me.
We're delighted. And we want to talk about some of the issues in the campaign, but one of the things we wanted to talk about a little bit first is your background. You came up in Durham, and you're a graduate of Howard University, and then became a graduate of the University of North Carolina Law School with honors. And from that, you opened your own law practice. So I've sort of given the background. So why don't you tell us where you got the inspiration to do all those things, and then we'll get to why you decided to get in public service.
Probably my mother and father. My father was born and raised in Columbus County, that area around Bladen. And one of the things about it, he was a farm boy, poor farm, but he worked very hard. He carried us back there when we were young people to be able to see where he came from and what he did. And he had drive, he had motivation, and he tried to instill that in us, both from what we saw and then what he got us to do, and then got us to get out and start working early, around 13 years of age, selling magazines and making sure we did the job we needed to do and that we fulfilled our responsibilities. So you have a chance there. My mother, very dedicated lady, very much inspirational in my life, and saw how she gave to the family, gave to us, how she was there for us all the time. So you put all that together, and it just created a wonderful opportunity for me to do the things that I've tried to do in life to give back to our communities.
Well, your father, Asa T. Spaulding Sr., became president of North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company, and he started sweeping the floors, I think.
Yes, he did. He was able to come from Columbus County and come up to Durham. I had an opportunity to work. They would do that with young people at the time to give them a chance to come to the so-called big city of Durham, which was not that large. But they came there, and he did work, did janitorial work, did all the kinds of things, but he was inspired to do more. And so what he ended up doing, he went to college, started off at North Carolina Central, ran out of money, went to Howard University, ran out of money, kept working, and then went to NYU, New York University, continued to work, and he graduated. Then he went to the University of Michigan, where he became the first African-American actuarial scientist, that's a mathematician for life insurance, in the country, and came back to North Carolina Mutual, and he started working there. So he had drive.
And put you to work.
Put us to work and put us to work hard in rain, sleet, and snow. It was not going to be a privileged life. It was going to be a life of understanding what the importance of hard work is all about.
Well, you know, we were talking before the program about how important parents are to instill those basic principles in people, mm-hmm. and so you were very fortunate to have a great source of inspiration from both your father and your mother.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about you. You were not out of college long, or not out of law school long, before you decided to get into public service and ran for the North Carolina House. What caused you to be interested in going into public service in addition to your law practice?
Well, first let me say I'm glad to hear you say public service, because a lot of times people view this as politicians and politics. And to me, I'm not a politician, never was and never planned to be. I learned from my parents about the importance of public service. And let me give you an example. When I did run for the legislature, I was feeling all good about myself up at the Board of Elections as the votes were coming in. My mother was there with me because she was running for re-election as a county commissioner. She was the first woman county commissioner in Durham County. So I was seeking my first opportunity to run for office, and the votes were coming in, and I was winning. And she saw I was getting all excited, and she pulled me to the side, and she said, son, it's not about you. It's about the people. And you need to understand you'll be given an opportunity to serve the public and serve the people. And I always remembered that. And when I served in the legislature, I remembered that through my works in the legislature of serving people. And when I was appointed by Governor Easley to serve on the Board of Transportation for 4 years, I served there and tried to represent the people of my division, both large and small counties, in a very equal and fair-minded way.
Well, but it's a real commitment because when you're in the General Assembly, you've got to take time away from your practice of law or whatever job a person has. That's tough. And because it's far more than just the sessions. I mean, there's all sorts of committee meetings and ad hoc committees and so forth. And it's tough. And, of course, being close to Raleigh is an advantage. Right. I look at people who come from Jackson County and places like that, and they're making a real commitment in just travel time.
That's true. And there is a sacrifice. But, as I was running for office, I was going back to people I had represented in the past. And I had a criminal law practice for about 15, 20 years that I was doing that. And I was observing what was going on with people in their lives through frustration, lack of opportunities, those types of things. So what I tried to carry over there with me was an understanding of business principles that I'd learned and opened my own small business, which was my law firm, borrowing money, meeting payroll and all, but also looking at other people who had not had the opportunities that I had. And so what I tried to do when I got to the legislature was not think about myself, as my mother said. It wasn't about me, but it was about the people. And I would reach back on my experiences and then the experiences of others to try to come forth with legislation that reached a good cross-section of people through every endeavor of life. So I never looked at it as a hardship or as a difficult thing to do. I looked at it as an opportunity to be able to help others. Now, that sounds corny nowadays, especially when you're in politics, you're running for office and all, and everybody wants to say they want to help people. And you know what happens with these politicians. Just when it's time for them to run for office, they're smiling, slapping you on the back, and your best friend. And then once they get elected, you never see them again. But I take this very seriously. When you have a chance to give back to your community, give back to your state, which has allowed you to be successful in life, and to give back to others, that comes from what I was raised with, what I saw my mother and my father do. And so that's why I said if people are looking for Ken Spaulding to be a politician, they're looking at the wrong place. But if you're looking for somebody, then this is not a campaign rhetoric. This is just a fact. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. And I try to do all I can to see that people's lives are better in North Carolina because I've had a wonderful opportunity. And I want to see people have the same opportunities in life.
Let's talk about some of the issues that are facing North Carolina. Of course, I guess everything first turns to the state of the economy in North Carolina. North Carolina is a rather strange state. You and I live in an area that is growing rapidly. The Triangle, the Triad's growing, the Charlotte area is growing, but we have a lot of North Carolina that is more like a depression area, an area of depression. So what do you look at as the issues that you would try to guide us through as governor in the area of developing the economy of North Carolina?
Yeah, well, let me point this out. I announced that I was running 2 years ago, and I've been crisscrossing the state ever since. I've spent a lot of time in eastern North Carolina. And one of the reasons is because, quite frankly, as I began there, I saw a lot of very depressing economic situations. I saw how, growing up in Durham in the Research Triangle area, you see opportunities. But when you get outside of these urban areas, you find that people are hurting out here, that when we had this 2007 and 2008 Great Recession that took place, some of the places that there did have jobs in the eastern part of the state, those places closed down. Then you had the economy that was not the greatest as it could have been anyway. But I found one underpinning that really bothered me in the eastern part of the state and all across this state. That's education. They're very simple, fundamental, common sense situations. We've got to make sure that all of our children, not just in our urban areas, but all across this state, receive top-notch educational opportunities. and that we have to see that our public school teachers are in fact respected as well as being paid better. I don't believe in mediocrity. I believe in the best. So when I hear these politicians talking about, well, we're going to do the national average, I want to see Eastern North Carolina, Middle North Carolina, and the Western part of North Carolina. When it comes to education, I want us to be in the top 5 or the top 10, not national average. Do not believe in average. So it's important to me that our state overall, not just in the urban areas, but throughout the state, have the economic opportunities and educational opportunities to be able to have some success. We got to spread it around. I think for our overall state economy, structurally, it's important for us to have every particular area of our state to do better and to do well, not just the urban centers, because then that will allow us to be able to withstand those economic pressures that come about through sometimes very bad national policies.
We are sort of in an awkward time. I've got some follow-up questions I'm going to do in the next section because the questions I'm going to ask you take more than a minute or two to answer, and I only have a minute left in this segment. So I'm going to get back to education. We're talking with Ken Spaulding, who is a candidate for governor, subject to the Democratic primary that will be coming up, and we will be back with our guests right after these messages.